Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeremy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeremy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
All right. Oops, shoot. I am all kinds of messed up today. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Hopefully everything is going good. Make sure you can hear me.
A chiropractor's journey in every...
All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so tonight should be a really fun one. Tonight is one of my favorite topics. I hope I don't either bore you or throw so much down your throat that we have to do a second one. So just make sure in the inflammation process tonight, we're going to go into the secrets of inflammation, how it actually works. And then it's such a big topic. A lot of times it's good to start with where we're going to start. And then hopefully we get to a place where it's going to be really, really good. So before I say anything, I want to make sure I post. If you aren't following, you will want to. I put it in the chat. Let me make sure. Oh, good. Julie, make sure. Will you give me a thumbs up if my mic's working? All right. Okay. And then, yeah, just to make sure we're good. So, yeah, I'm having a little techie issues, which is kind of crazy. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so as we go through this tonight, it should be really, really helpful in the sense of inflammation in general. So if you happen to not get on or get on later, let me know. And then just make sure you're getting on that Rumble channel and we'll have the recording there. So with that, I wanted you to see, where you could actually do this if you want it in the podcast form. Oh man, sorry. I don't know why I'm discombobulated. Really? We're going to do that. All right. Hang on. Okay. All right. I wanted to also get you on. I don't know if you guys know this, but we are on Spotify, which is awesome. And then I want to get this onto our comments as well. Okay, cool. Copy, paste. So Spotify is another great way to listen. I have a pretty good, pretty good following on there until tonight. That's possibly a thing that might not occur. So just to let you know. No, I'm just kidding. So tonight is going to be about inflammation. And inflammation is pretty cool in the sense of what it is and how the whole thing approaches. So let us get into our first two little info nuggets before we get going. So each Wednesday we go over it's called the Whole Health Weekly. And that Whole Health Weekly, a lot of times we'll go through, whatever the trend is of that week, whole healthy trends that week. This is just to kind of see what's in the news this week that you might think of. So I always push for natural farmers honey from your local area. One is the pollens that are used, and it's really, really good for you. Okay, so when you're looking for honey, there's two other options now, and they're both Hawaiian. I don't know if we'll get them up here in Michigan, so I'm not sure. But Manuka and Ohio Lahua. Manuka and Ohio with an A at the end. Lahua. They're both kinds of unique honeys, and they both have good medicinal properties to them. So not only would you have your natural farmer's honey, but these are other ones you could do. So the Ohio Lahua is a huge antioxidant. It can be a very big antioxidant. So if you added, so some of you know garlic and honey, you ferment those two together, can be one of your best throat situations for sicknesses ever. And then Manuka is actually antibacterial, which would be really important to know those two different things. I'm only going to go through two because I got a pretty long conversation or presentation tonight. But the other thing to remember is physical fitness is a huge link to cancer survival. So the people that a lot of times you'll see different situations where, somebody's going through some cancer treatment. The more physical activity they found in studies, the better off you're going to do. With that, let us get started on the inflammation. Now, as we go, we're going to try to walk through this because we have to understand inflammation first of what it is, okay? Understanding that it's not a bad guy, okay? We need it, okay? So that's the biggest thing. All right. Oh, I got Brian, Sue, and oh, man, I got some people in the chat. Welcome, everybody. Julie, of course. You guys are my claim to fame. I want to get international, so I'm hoping Matant Paulette gets on there at some point. So hopefully, if you're on Matant Paulette, let's get international tonight. All right. So 1% Tribe, unlock the secrets of inflammation, the natural solutions that we can take a look at. So what we're going to go over tonight is defining the So this is the key for tonight, is defining the inflammation process and what happens when there is an out of control inflammation. What are some of the key lifestyle changes you can do to begin to create a normal system again? That's what we're going to talk about a lot. And what herbs and supplements can really help you take control of this inflammation process, okay? All right, so let's dive in. Let's define inflammation. Okay, so one of the big keys tonight is understanding that we're going to walk through inflammation and that it's a normal process of your human body. We need it in every aspect of who we are. We need it. Okay, and so one of the things that occurs is that we take it on as an enemy, and we really need to understand it. So once we understand it, then tricks to get it out of there, tricks to improve the inflammation will make so much more sense. Okay. All right. So This is the definition. Inflammation is your body's way of reacting to something harmful, like an injury, infection, or irritant. It's like an alarm system that sends redness, heat, swelling, and sometimes pain to the affected area as it tries to protect itself and heal itself. Think of it as your immune system jumping into action to fight off trouble. Okay. So the whole mechanism of inflammation is a red alarm. You hear the alarm system going off. Okay. Inflammation is the process of what happens to our cells when the alarm starts going off. All of these different people everybody, all these cells start paying attention to what that alarm system's telling them, and then go to where the alarm system is. Okay. Okay. So the reason it's going to be kind of an interesting front and back, but the inflammation process is there for exactly what it's supposed to do. We are supposed to have inflammation throughout our day, inflammation when we work out, inflammation when we have crappy food, inflammation when we have, a bad day. These are all things that are actually normal. The problem with inflammation is that it gets out of control because of our patterning throughout a day could keep it around very consistently, right? And created these patterns that keep occurring every single day. The idea behind inflammation is to come do its job, and then the alarm system turns off, and then it goes back to resting and digesting, right? So we have to make sure that we are going after these time frames and creating a homeostasis again, which homeostasis is balance. When it needs to turn on, it turns on. When it needs to turn off, it turns off. Inflammation is the exact same thing as your thermostat. Okay. So in your thermostat in your house, if you set it at 70, if it goes over 70, you're going to turn on your air conditioner, right? And it's going to turn your air conditioner on, which those are certain cells of the human body, and that will bring it down to 70. If it's under 70 or under 70, you're going to have other cells of your human body, your thermostat to your furnace, and that furnace is going to turn on and heat the air up till 70 degrees. They're both good until one thing happens. When it's set at 70 and your furnace is still running, and now it's at 72, 73, 74. So think of your inflammation like that. Like it's not reading the thermostat. Something's wrong in a bad situation. But inflammation in general should work just like a normal thermostat would. Okay? All right. So we're going to go through a couple of the cells. I'm not going to quiz you on it, I promise. So we're not going to quiz you on the cells of inflammation, but it's good to hear these words because you might hear them from your doctors or blood work or all those things. So these are the key cells of inflammation. Neutrophils. Neutrophils are the most abundant type of white blood cells, and they're the first responders in the acute inflammation. Think of your neutrophils as your ambulance. Okay. And especially in bacterial infections. Macrophages. Macrophages they're from monocytes, which are white blood cells as well. Macrophages are long-lived immune cells that reside in tissues and are recruited during inflammation. So these guys are like your volunteer firemen. They're always around, they're present, but they get recruited. They have other jobs, right? Macrophages do. They have other jobs, but in the times of inflammation, we got to go get them to help out with the inflamed area. Okay, so mast cells. Mast cells are resident immune cells. So wherever that area is, that's where those cells are. They're found in connective tissue, especially in your blood vessels and nerves, and abundant in areas like the skin and mucous membrane. These guys release histamine, prostaglandins, and what's something called leukotrienes. And this is usually by injury or allergens. These chemicals increase the blood vessel, we'll call it permeability, and dilate the vessels. So the mast cells are the ones that open up the highway. So if you think of these mast cells going, okay, we got to get everybody off the highway because there's a fire down the road. These guys are the ones that like free up. When they say blood vessel permeability, it means it's kind of opening it up and making the fluid or the liquid go faster, like through the human body. Okay. And so that's what the dilation of the vessels is. It's trying to get that fluid moving to the area of injury faster and getting rid of the waste products faster too. Okay. So this is the mast cells are those things that could lead to, that's what you see when you see swelling or redness. Okay. So that is what a mast cell does. Pretty interesting, right? Lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are T cells and B cells. So lymphocytes, you'll hear a lot about I don't know. Give me a chart if you've heard of any of these before. So T cells and B cells are another one. These are adaptive immune cells. T cells are what they call helper cells. And we'll get into the weeds of that. And B cells produce antibodies. So T cells and B cells help produce the antibodies. These antibodies come in and start help remember, antibiotic, right? Antibacteria. So they're going after, they create the things that take out the bacteria that's present. Okay, so it's their role, the lymphocytes, in chronic inflammation or specific immune responses. T cells, cytokines they release cytokines to coordinate the immune system response. So they increase macrophages, they kill infected cells essentially. And the B cells produce the antibodies to neutralize any kind of bugs or pathogens. So that's what lymphocytes do. Super important. There's a reason I'm going through all these, so I apologize in advance, but the more you know about your immune system, the better by far. Eosinophils, these are white blood cells, and they're mostly involved in parasitic infections or allergic responses. Okay, so you can see how eosinophils have two different roles there: parasites or allergies. Very interesting, isn't it? Have you heard a lot of talking lately or around the world of parasites being a thing? So are allergic reactions. So there's a lot of medicinal things on the internet that talk about parasites a lot and this kind of situation. So eosinophils release toxic granules and react to oxygen to help get rid of parasites and allergens. Okay. So they contribute to the inflammation in conditions like asthma, in any kind of tissue damage. Okay. So I'm kind of going a little quick just because I know this could be a long one and I want to get to the good stuff that will help you. So I promise you this will be worth it. I promise. Okay. Endothelial cells. Endothelial cells, they line the interior of blood vessels. They're not immune cells though, right? So we're talking about all the cells. Think about this. I've already been through, we're not even done yet. And these are all the cells that react in inflammation. Think about that. So these are not even immune cells, but they're critical in inflammation because they create adhesion. Okay. So like if you cut yourself or, this is what they call the beginning matrix of creating a blood clot. Okay. There's this whole thing in medicine or physiology called the clotting cascade. And this is one of the parts of it. And so one of the things that happens is your body has this ability to stop bleeding. It stops that bleeding. And this is how one of the ways they do it with these endothelial cells, if they're reacted to do it. Okay. So endothelial cells normally are just lining, they're the layers inside the blood vessel. Okay. We have endothelial cells all over our body, lining different layers of anything. Okay. When they're reactive, and then the innate intelligence of the body responds and says, hey, I got to bleed here. These endothelial cells react, change, and help the cytokines to start to create blood clots or start to stick to the vessel walls, allowing these clots to happen. Okay. And then the next one is platelets. Platelets are not something that is an immune cell either, but they're huge in creating the clot that we need. Okay. So the clot situation is massive, and we need those things in the inflammatory processes. Okay. So the one more is fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are connective tissue cells. Connective tissue cells, think of like ligaments, tendons, that kind of thing. But fibroblasts are like little guys in like cell walls. You got to have some of that stuff. Okay. They help you when they're activated, and the innate intelligence of our body tells it when it's happening. It's connective tissue that'll help produce some collagen and matrix stuff to create that same clot. Okay. All right. Hopefully you guys are finding this interesting. I know it's a lot. Let me see if we go. Okay. So think about this before we go on. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I just described 8 different cells in just the inflammation process. 8 different types of cells. That is a lot. That is a ton, especially in the entire inflammatory process. So when you're thinking of a thing to get a control of in your life and health, it is inflammation, guys. Inflammation is the key. So we need to make sure it is linked to so many conditions in the human body that if you can do this, health changes so dramatically for you. And so that's why this is important to understand. So you have all these different cells of the immune system. You don't have to know all the names, even down to the blood clotting. Now you kind of understand when you get a cut, it's a four alarm fire at somebody's house, and the alarm system's going off. All these cells, 8 different ones, come flying in to that area to start doing their job. Some of the ones are already present in that area are going to help and assist with creating, like, let's say a blood clot or, those kind of things. It's all the same process though. So you got to remember that when you kickstart inflammation, you get all of it. You get all 8 processes going. So just remember that, as we go throughout how it works. Okay. So this is how inflammation starts. And so we're going to walk through this part, and then we'll get into the more interesting stuff that more people are interested in. So you have this process, or the phase of initiation. This is where tissue injury happens. We'll use an infection or an infection. Okay. Here's where the holistic part, there's a lot of initiation. Okay. So we're going to talk about this initiation, and they're going to use in the wording triggering from some kind of tissue damage, right? The other thing that can happen is initiation can happen by toxins, right? Toxins getting into your body. What is fake sugar? What is processed food? What is things that are not natural to the human, the cells of the human body? Those are all things. They're infections. It's according to the way the inflammation process knows it's going to react, because it's a foreign invader. So you have to remember what your body is thinking, as you go. And that's one thing that's critical in the initiation part. We always think of inflammation as bumping your elbow. That makes sense, right? However, there's toxins involved, right? If we're eating crappy foods, we're eating things that have non-food chemicals in it to make it taste better, whatever, right? That starts the inflammatory process. It absolutely has to, right? There's no no way it can't, right? So that's a big one. All right. The other way that this can happen, so we understand like hitting a physical injury with inflammation, but we have to understand that not only can a toxin do it, like processed food, let's say, or how about mental stress? Mental stress, if you're in a protective environment, you're going through a high stress environment, your body goes into this protective mode. It's going to initiate, if the body needs protection, it's going to kickstart an immune system reaction with this inflammation because you're in this protective mode. Okay. So just remember those two when we go through these, because sometimes we kind of glaze over what actually causes stuff. So the initiation phase, now that I've told you our holistic way, tissue injury or infection triggers resident cells, like we talked about, mast cells and macrophages, to release chemical mediators. These chemical ones are histamine, cytokines, and chemokines. Then, after the initiation, and all of a sudden, it's known that there's a problem in this area. Recruitment, the blood vessels dilate. The endothelial cells allow those neutrophils and monocytes to exit the bloodstream and enter the tissue. So now we have about four of the 8 that we were talking about. They're at the site. Amplification. Immune cells eliminate the threat. Okay, so these immune cells that came in whoop on the pathogen, the robber, whatever you want to call it, and signal further immune involvement if needed. Okay, so there you go. So it amplifies until the problem is resolved. Resolution or chronicity. This is what we're going to talk about tonight. Macrophages and fibroblasts clear debris, repair tissue. If unresolved, inflammation may become chronic, involving lymphocytes and persistent tissue damage. All right. So now that I told you what these infectious triggers can be, put together the chronic part, okay, of what if I eat the same processed foods all the time? What does that do? That allows the inflammation to stay there, right? Okay. All right. So hopefully that's making sense. If we walk through this, what I wanted to do is get to a point, and we are almost there to where the good stuff is coming. So I apologize for you have to know a little bit. You have to know a little bit of the inflammation process to actually, take it to that next level. I just didn't know if I could get it done in an hour, because it'd probably take a whole semester to go through each one of those little things. The big thing is to always understand that when we have that chronicity occur, okay, so that chronicity could be high stress environment where you're in that protective mode of your brain, multiple hours every day. Okay. So high stress environment like that. The biggest one is, the processed chemical foods. Let's say we have the same chemical foods we eat every single day. We snack on this or that, what candy bar we stop every time we stop here, we get a candy bar, whatever it is, right? Once you add those chemicals, it initiates the immune system and the inflammation process. The inflammation process is really, really close to the immune system process. Okay. This one, it just happens to be, it gets after it so quickly and so fast that it really does a good job in breaking that stuff down. Once it's broken those down, cleans out the area, and now we're good, and so hopefully this is making sense. But anyway, so I just want you guys to know as much about inflammation as you possibly can, and we'll probably do more of these for sure. So what can we do to improve our process? So what can we do to improve our process of inflammation is what this means. First, know that inflammation is a body process, not a disease, okay, that you can't do anything about. This is something we can do something about every day, every single day. You can do something to improve your inflammatory process. So we have to recalibrate the process in a way to make the life changes into a more holistic way of life. All right. And then we need to know, which we talked about, what gets inflammation active. And we talked about these, what we call in chiropractic, the thoughts, toxins, and trauma. Okay. So these are the things that cause the chronic inflammation to happen. Does your inflammation want to keep going? Does your inflammation want to keep producing cells and going? No, it wants to stop. It wants to rest. It's like having a guy have an alarm system at the fire, or like the alarm system keeps going off. And pretty soon it's like the boy cries wolf, right? If your alarm system keeps going off, oh my God, we had one at our office. It was crazy. Every time the wind blew, our alarm system would go off. I'd have to go there. I'd have to call. And then you're always worried about not checking, because if you go check the office and then, oh, nobody was there, and then you just got sick of having to go, right? And that's kind of how the chronic inflammation works. So what you need to do, and that's what tonight is about, we need to clear the air for our inflammatory processes. Okay. And so we're going to go through some simple steps, simple yet complex, that really can get you on the road to reducing a lot of this inflammation. Okay. So we talked about them. So the three things in chiropractic that cause you spinal misalignments, or subluxations, as we like to call: trauma, thoughts, toxins. It also kickstarts the inflammation process as well. So no difference. All right. So let's self-evaluate. So let's do that tonight, and then we can look at the cool stuff. All right. So look at the ergonomics. Okay. So ergonomics of your day. So one of the big things in chronic inflammation that goes untapped is that a lot of us have jobs that we do the same thing all the time. Either you're sitting in a chair, constantly staring at a computer for hours on end, or you're a physical mover. You're at a factory, let's say, and you're constantly doing the same motion all the time. Both of those lead to different problems in chronic inflammation. So we have to be careful when we have the same setup for a really long time. A lot of my retired people, they sit so much watching TV in a chair, they don't even know, or they sit playing a computer. But what's weird is they could play for 3 or 4 hours, not know what happened, right? Because that's how, let's say, addictive the game is, or the video, or whatever it is. It happens all the time. But the problem is, when you don't move bones in a certain way, your body starts kind of breaking down those areas. Then inflammation can kind of come in. And that's why when you get up from a chair, everything hurts. If you're sitting down, you're like, oh, my knees. Oh, just to get up out of a chair is like, you got to stretch and do all those kind of things. The reason is because it takes a long time. If you're in one position for a really long time, your body doesn't like that. You're not talking to it. Okay. So that's a key one. So ergonomics: are you turned your head a certain way? Are you lifting this way, one way all day? Right. There's constant different things to look at. Like when you're looking at your own ergonomics, how are you sitting in a chair? Are you sitting down where your head's like, staring at a computer? That could be a huge one that I see all the time, where you're sitting and playing with your phone, right? And then the stress on your neck, you don't even feel it because you're so used to it. And then eventually you get this forward head posture, and then the back of your neck hurts, and you get headaches, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's inflammation, looking at the ergonomics. So let's look at another self-evaluation. Biggest one, I would say, that we have to talk about is looking at your eating. This is not about weight loss. This is not about any of those. We have got to get rid of the chemicals in our food. Okay. You have to get better at it. We all have to get better at it. One of the biggest problems we have is this inflammation dives in because we eat stuff that's not natural, that our body doesn't know what it is. Ask the next time if you just want to take. I should find something. I should have grabbed something like one of these different. Oh, hang on, I'll look something up. Ingredients, and I will not bring up what I in a. Okay, I'm gonna look up a special bar. All right. Okay. So, all right. I'm going to tell you what this bar is, but we're going to go through it. Okay. So, here is what is in a snack bar. Okay. So, this one has milk chocolate. I won't go into the stuff you can eat. So, peanuts, caramel. Well, caramel is kind of like processed caramel. But here's some other ingredients: corn syrup, palm oil, lactose, salt, and artificial flavors. So let's say 1, 2, 5 things in this bar. I'm just reading off of off the internet. 5 things within one snack bar that your body would not have a clue what that is. That you wouldn't have a clue. So if that's true, I never said to have artificial flavors. So all of a sudden you got these artificial flavors in your body. What's going to happen? The immune system's like, oh crap, there's a foreign invader. The alarm system goes off. It gets rid of it. Now, let's say it's a small amount. All right, it does its thing. It takes off. But what if I keep doing that every day? So now I have these artificial flavors once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day, the same all the time. A lot of this has to do with pop, guys. Some of you that are Coke drinkers drives me nuts. Like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean Coke. Sodas of various ones, all of them are the same. There's so many chemicals in there that are undigestible. Your immune system loses its mind. Okay. So that's one of those things. If you can prevent that, as few of those ingredients as humanly possible, you can really change your inflammation process. Okay. Because a lot of the things that we're going to talk about at the very end of this won't work if we don't change the first 2. Okay. And then the biggest one is the food and diet. A lot of people try to go, hey, I'm doing turmeric and ginger, but I'm drinking a 6-pack of Mountain Dew every day. That won't work. That will not work. It's not a long-term gain there. Okay. So what we have to do is change that portion. And then a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about in the girls will help a ton. So, and I'm hoping you'll like those a lot too. Okay. So hydration's huge because, as you know, we talked about the inflammation process moves with fluidity. It goes inside the blood cells. It gets to where it needs to go. The alarm system goes off in your right arm. All the blood vessels get directed to go to that blood. So it opens the blood vessels up, gets a super fast highway, tries to get over there as fast as humanly possible to do their job. Remember, there's 8 reactive cells that come in, do their role at that point, right? And so a lot of times with hydration, you're allowing good flow through hydrated body. Remember, 60% of your body is water. And so if we're able to hydrate and keep that hydration up, what is hydration? How many ounces? It's up in the 90. So 3 32 ounces. One water bottle, probably not this big. This is mine. I do like 2 or 3 of these, but I think it's like between 90 and 110 ounces. Somebody could correct me on that one. But it's fantastic. Water and hydration is something that can really, really help you in your inflammation process. That comes from me with clinical experience. 25 years at chiropractic. When I notice you're dehydrated, I tell you. And it's amazing the next time I adjust you because your muscles feel it, right? So when somebody's getting adjusted, if they're really dehydrated, they feel like, that's what I tell every patient. They all have heard it before, probably in here. Think of the difference between a steak, right? Nice squishy steak, and beef jerky. You know, which one they're both delicious, right? But think of the consistency of the steak, where you can say like squish it like, squish it, but then beef jerky's hard as a rail. That's kind of what happens as you dehydrate. You can feel it. That's why a lot of times I'll tell people to drink water before they get adjusted, because it helps the adjustment process a ton. So just to let you guys know that as you get adjusted. And then, of course, thoughts. High stress leads to high cortisol. High cortisol then triggers the inflammation process. So all of these things. Why do we have chronic inflammation in our society? I don't know. Couldn't be the high stress of working all the time. Couldn't be the foods that we're working so much we got to like grab something real quick. I don't know. Couldn't be the working, 50, 60 hours a week on your feet. I don't know. Makes sense to me. But that's the biggest thing is like understanding how to combat that chronic inflammation can make, working 50, 60 hours a week a dream, an absolute easy peasy, like nothing. So hopefully you got something out of that. I hope. We're not done yet, but I wanted to get you through the process of inflammation. Now we can talk about the cool stuff. Okay. So this is going to be awesome. What we're going to do is go through the vitamins you should make sure you have in your system that are critical for the inflammatory process. Okay. And then we're going to go through the herbs. Sorry about that. So hopefully you can read them on the screen. If not, let me know. I can get you these, from the office or email as well. So let's get into it. So vitamins that can help, and these help with regulation. So that's really good. So it's cool because most of you that would watch the 1% Tribe are probably taking a ton of these. Oh, tonight is, I didn't tell you guys, my herbal tea tonight it's like the raspberry leaf tea. So it's really good for your heart and all those kind of things. It's really good though. I've always enjoyed that one. But anyway, okay. So vitamins that help you for the regulation of your inflammation that would help if you want to make these changes in your life. Vitamin C. Vitamin C is a huge antioxidant, and it helps neutralize free radicals. And free radicals help make inflammation worse. Okay. And it also has a huge support system for the immune function. One reason I brought this up, neutrophils. All right. That's pretty cool. You guys know what that word is now. And helps regenerate antioxidants like vitamin E. And it helps with collagen, and it aids in tissue repair. So huge shout out to vitamin C. Vitamin D. Vitamin D, you should all be taking anyway, right? There 10 to 20,000 IUs, not going to scare me. All right. Modulates the immune system by reducing the pro-inflammatory cytokines and enhancing the anti-inflammatory pathways. So vitamin D is critical. Vitamin D is huge in so many ways, and we'll talk about it so many times. Vitamin D is typically a hormone that is actually the alarm. If you think about it, it is the alarm system to your house. Okay. So it's the actual setup, the system to the house. It's the one, if you have a good normal vitamin D level, when the robber comes and grabs the door, the alarm system goes off and the police come. If the vitamin D level's too low, the robber comes, grabs the door, gets in, robs the place, shuts the door on the way out, and then the alarm system goes on. Okay? So just remember that in vitamin D. Vitamin E, you can see vitamin C kind of helps it get rolling, but vitamin E is a antioxidant that protects the cell membranes from what it's called oxidative damage. So it's just damaged by the inflammation. So your cells are protected a lot better with vitamin E, and it helps and it helps with immune cell balance. Vitamin A, it supports the mucosal membranes, the skin and gut lining, and it the vitamin A actually helps protection. It protects inflammatory triggers from entering the body. Okay. And then it helps with the immune system as well. So, right. So far, it's vitamin C, D. So it's vitamin C, D, A, and E. Vitamin K, we talked about that last week. Vitamin K is critical and anti-inflammatory. You don't really need to know what it does, but it does a lot for blood vessel health. So that's really, really good. B vitamins, all of them, but especially B6, B9, and B12. So obviously, that's a lot of vitamins that are helpful. Okay, so this is how to break it down. There's two different ones. If you don't have a lot of chronic inflammation right now, and let's say you're feeling good all the time, a lot of times, and a lot of people are. So a lot of people would want to make sure their vitamin C and A is up there. And then while vitamin E and D are up there as well, but you don't need the other ones necessarily. I always recommend doing all of them, but that's how that works. Chronic inflammation, it's way more important. You'll, of course, do vitamin A, C, and E, but the ones that are critical for my chronic inflammatory people are vitamin D, vitamin K, and the Bs. Okay. Because those help a lot with a prolonged inflammatory process. So let me know if you ever have trouble and want to, like if you need help with any of this, let me know for sure. Okay, now the fun part. What you've all been waiting for. I like this. I'm not going to throw a ton of herbs at you because I've been talking the entire time. But these are kind of like write down ones. So they can help a lot, especially if you know where your inflammatory process is having a hard time. So your inflammatory process, some of you will know, all right, it's in my circulatory system. It's in my gut. It's in my muscles and my joints. A lot of this will help with that. So these herbs are really, really good about what they call regulating the immune system. The inflammation system. Remember, we don't want to get rid of our inflammation system. We want to regulate it, make sure it's working right all the time. Oil, get the oil changed on your ambulance. That's what this is. All right. So the circulatory system, if you're having inflamed blood vessels and all those kind of things, usually a doctor will tell you that. Horse chestnut is actually not a bad herb. GI system. I really like this one because the gut is a huge if we can control inflammation in the gut, you can control inflammation throughout the body. The GI chamomile, my favorite go-to because it's so nice and easy on everyone as a tea, as a tincture. It's very, very safe for everything down to like little infants. It's good. Turmeric and ginger. This is a good one. Remember, before I keep going on this one, remember in turmeric and ginger, if you get into those supplementations, you want to build a lot of turmeric and ginger in the beginning because it doesn't, the reason it works so well in the GI system is because it builds up and it doesn't digest really well, if that makes sense, but it stays. So that's part of the benefit. So it's kind of like it builds up, kind of like oil. You don't use all the oil in your car at like one time. That oil builds up, and then all you need to do later is have a few doses of it. So I tell people when they have a turmeric and ginger supplement, you take like 6 to 8, get like 300-400 milligrams of it in the first 6 days or more even. And then after that first 3 to 6 days, you start going 2 a day. 2 a day will top it off, right? And that way you can get that. But it's a really good GI inflammatory. Musculoskeletal is one of my favorites to deal with. A lot of good ones out there for anti-inflammatory. Okay. Musculoskeletal, willow or white willow bark is a huge one. It's nature's natural aspirin. It's the thing that I converted to. I don't think I've touched an aspirin in 20 years because all I use is white willow bark. It's kind of cool. Devil's Claw is a new discovery of mine. Devil's Claw is a really good tincture. I got some patients that love that one. Feverfew is another one, really strong for headaches, if those headaches are inflammation worthy. Nervous system. The nervous system, there's not very many in St. John's wort. This one is St. John's wort's one you might want to come in, make sure your doctor knows about all that, that one especially. However, it's really effective for nervous system inflammation. Reproduction, which is in guys, it's prostate. In women, it's all the stuff. Reproduction, mullein. Mullein, it can be a huge anti-inflammatory. Very good in a lot of different ways. And so that could be a key trigger for guys and ladies in the reproductive space. And my women have a ton of inflammation processes that happen in the reproduction area. Could be a very nice herb for anybody struggling with that. The one we know a lot of is the UTI, or urinary tract, right? And there are more in each of these subjects. So if you ever want to talk about them, let me know. But the ones I like, or the ones that are predominant, I'm giving you tonight. But urinary, corn silk. Corn silk is a nice herb that could help a ton in the inflammation process. This is, like, we're not talking like getting rid of the bacteria or whatever, but this can help self-regulate that. And I thought this was a good one. Skin inflammation. Chamomile again, which is great. And calendula. Calendula is something I learned in my last herbal retreat, how nice that herb is to work with. So a lot of herbalists use calendula quite a bit, especially on skin issues. All right. I think that's it. Oh, yeah. So what are we going to do tonight for a 1%? Hopefully give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too much crazy. I know trying to explain the inflammation process in 45 minutes is a daunting task, I tell you. But it's worth it. Hopefully you got something out of that. What I want you to know is 8 cells immediately when that inflammation process comes, you go right after it, right? They're on Johnny on the spot. So all these 8 cells all over your body are doing that. And so when we keep bringing invaders in through these fake foods and chemicals and, high stress environment when it's not needed to be stressful, all of a sudden you're bringing all that in. So all these cells are busy all the time. So you just got to remember that. And our job, as this innate, intelligent, awesome cell human piece of matter, is to make sure that it's all working as the best it possibly can. So what we want to do, start looking at changing your lifestyle with self-evaluations. What we talked about, the ergonomics, how you're eating, how your stress is going. Get those good vitamins in you. It's worth it. It's not just for feeling good and being healthier, right? Being stronger, which is always good, but it can get rid of the chronic inflammation. I'm gonna rant a little bit here. Why in health, medical sick care, do we not start there? I get people coming in all the time and say, hey, I got this chronic inflammation system. Oh, how's your diet? We didn't talk about that. Oh yeah. What do I do all day? Oh, I work 70 hours a week at the factory. What do you lift? Oh, a 50-pound engine every 10 minutes. Oh, that's cool. So what's your food intake like? Well, I'm working so much. I just go to the fast food place and get that. And I just use a lot of McDonald's and, or fast food and, stop and get a few Mountain Dews here and there, some energy drinks just to keep me awake. So we're not, so do you take a multivitamin? Oh no, I don't have time for that. I take like a Flintstone vitamin once. I did that as a kid. All right. So you saw all the stuff that we could do, right, guys? Seriously, we have to start changing like how we approach this. Like if we don't approach it in that correct way, it's really hard to change it, right? So get that self-evaluation in so that we're not, starting from scratch, or you end up on a medicine you probably don't need, right? That happens all the time. Get good vitamins, get some good ones. Remember the ones: vitamin C, D, E, A, K, all the B's. So pretty much a really good multi is probably one of your best investments you can make. All the time. We got a liquid one at the office I love. There's tons. And then at the end of this, if you see at that little one, if you want, I don't know how. Ooh, I can change my banner. Hang on. If you do this little QR code in the corner up there, you can go to what it's called Full Script. Those are all like supplementations. It's like Amazon, but it's the natural. There's a bunch of naturopaths that vet every supplement in there, but there's like 33,000 supplements in there. Great prices. It's all the same. And I think you get like 5 or 10% discount for just using it. So just check that out if you don't have these kind of things at home. Try some of those herbs. Hopefully I didn't go too fast through there, but look at what chamomile can do, what ginger and turmeric, some of the other specifics. White willow bark. White willow bark is one of my favorites. If you have that aspirin, chronic aspirin every day, that ends up leading to some bad stuff. And we all know that. Why not try to convert that to something different? And for me, it was white willow bark, and white willow bark was a game changer. So is it going to work for everybody? No, that's why there's, 5 or 10 different herbs you can actually try. Okay. So this is where you can get the awesome supplements there. And other than that, I hope you guys liked it. Thank you, Brian, for the great info. I appreciate that. I sometimes I worry because I'm a squirrel. You all know that with this, but this one was so exciting. It's almost, you can do so much with it. And thank you for sitting through, though, understanding how the process works. It's fascinating if you get into the process of inflammation and see how you really see the miracle of the human body and the intelligence that's within each cell of our human body that we kind of take for granted of. But all right. It was good to talk to you guys. And don't forget to, let me do this one more time. Don't forget to come over and join my Rumble channel. All right. And then don't forget, on Wednesday night, we always do Whole Health Weekly, where we go over what's kind of hot and trending in health at that, or about Wednesday, about 6:30 usually. That's when I try to make it. So, but anyway, you guys have a great night. And sorry about the little foobahs in the beginning. Have a great one.